Hi, hello, and how are you? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, that Rockwell timepiece says it's time. So come on in, get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. That's right, I continue to be a proud brand ambassador of the Rockwell Time brand. Go to rockwelltime.com and use the code COACH20 to receive 20% off of any item of any merchandise there on that website. Like and follow the Coach Scott Field Show on Facebook. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form today, Jumaine and I say turn that knob up. We're about to put that flavor in your ear. If you're watching us on DBTV, Monday through Fridays, and also Saturday afternoon, thank you to the 400,000 viewers who continually support the show. And wow, thank you for the 300 million who have the opportunity to see the show. Also, check us out on CSTV on Wednesdays. And also, don't forget the Rewind Sports 60 that also shows us throughout the week. Let's talk some basketball with my man, Jumaine Jones. Jumaine, I've got a whole list of honors and accolades. I'm just going to introduce you as the Thriller from Camilla. uh, Second team parade All American. Played at the University of Georgia. He's one of those dogs. He was drafted 27th by the Atlanta Hawks, and he's a guy that we have many common acquaintances, and I'm just thrilled that he's taken time from his busy schedule to join our viewers today. Jumaine, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I think we're going to have some fun with this right here. I mean, you are a former NBA player. You played around the globe in FIBA. You're an author. You're a speaker. You continually giving back to the community in multiple ways. Uh, where did that passion and love for the game all start? Because I think you're originally from Cocoa, Florida.
Yeah. I'm from originally born and raised in Cocoa, Florida, and I didn't pick up basketball until late. I was 11 years old when I first picked up a basketball, and I didn't even like basketball. Florida's like the football state, so
That's right.
most of my family played football, and I didn't really like football too much. But one day I went outside, and all my friends was at basketball practice. And that's what kind of motivated me to go to the gym. And starting out at 11 years old, of course I wasn't that good, but kids can be cruel. And I think that's kind of when my competitive nature kind of took over, because they were all making jokes about how bad I was, and I didn't really like that too much.
I like it. I know the Cocoa and Cocoa Beach area because, matter of fact, when I coached at Chipola Junior College, we were number 2 in the nation, and we had 2 gentlemen that lived there in that Cocoa area. And I can remember driving them home for spring break, and it was Mark Christian and Torrin Hawkins, and those guys were a couple ballers. And listen, that's a good area for some basketball in Florida as well. A lot of
Man,
athletes.
that's impressive that you even remember it, because those were 2 guys that I really looked up to growing up, Mark and Twan Hawkins.
Yeah, hey, listen, those guys were athletes, and because of athletes like them, it made us number 2 in the nation. So I'm gonna tell you what, there's a hotbed of basketball talent. Sometimes you just have to turn over a lot of rocks, but I'm gonna tell you what, I mean, I can remember another young man that I coached in the Orlando area, and then I know you moved up to to the Georgia area, but I mean, there's just great athletes and hardworking young men who use basketball as a tool to provide a better life and give back to their community. And I'm sure that's probably what inspired you to do the same.
Absolutely. It was a lot of talent in the area in Florida, but it was also a lot of, it was a lot of violence. It was a lot of drug dealing. It was a lot of things in that area, that kind of kept our youth from growing the way that I think they should have. But you know, all of that, a lot of things growing up from my childhood and just things that I experienced personally, like one of those things that really makes me want to give back the way I do. I'm real big in the mental health space. And I like to give back to that simply off the fact that, me growing up in Cocoa, Florida and all the things that I had to go through in that area just to be sane and to be able to get myself into something. And a lot of people don't know this, but the reason I left Cocoa, Florida, I was 13 years old. I witnessed a murder in Cocoa, Florida at that time. And, you know, uh, a lot of people around me was selling drugs. I was working at a convenience store. They were selling drugs out of there. And at 13 years old, I'm witnessing a murder. And my mom was like, okay, that's it. We got to give you an opportunity at life. And that's when, she moved me with her sister in a small town called Camilla, Georgia. Probably the best thing ever happened to me to be able to get out of the environment that I was in, just to be able to see something different out of life. Because I was actually one of those kids that, I couldn't wait to graduate high school so I can do the same thing that I was surrounded by because that's all I seen. And, just to be able to go to the small town of Camilla really opened a lot of other doors for me. I grew up without my father, so my high school coach was really my father figure, the first positive role model that I had in my life. So to be able to get that was everything for me, and motivated me to work as hard as I worked to be able to, provide the things that I was able to provide and still continues to provide for my community and family.
Jumaine, I think, I mean, that's real talk and that is heartfelt. I mean, let's talk about that because you mentioned mental health space. Let's get into that. How traumatic was that for you at the young age of 13 to witness a murder? I mean, what did you witness and what did that do to your system and your mentality to see it and live through that and have to process that? And how did you do that? How did you overcome that? Because let's be honest, my adopted son is African American, and I feel like the African American culture, and you can correct me on this, it feels like there's a stigma that you just have to be strong and you have to be able to be tough and you just got to get over it, suck it up. I mean, and that's not true. I mean, we're all humans and we all, suffer through traumatic or have things that happen to us mentally that, what, it's not taboo or wrong or
Right.
weak of you to seek mental health.
Well, one of the things I'm really, really big at is adverse childhood experiences, and a lot of people go through these childhood experiences, and probably one of the worst things that I was told as a kid was whatever goes on in this house stays in this house. So a lot of things kind of stayed inside of me where I really couldn't have those kind of conversations with anybody because, I was one of those kids that listen, and just growing up, it wasn't only just a murder. It was a lot of things that I experienced in my childhood that, I thought was normal. And, you asked the question of how did I get through that? Well, that was something that I carried with me throughout my life. And I didn't even know was an issue until I retired, because I was using basketball as a coping skill to kind of cover up all the hurt, all the pain, and all the things that I experienced as a kid. I used that on the basketball court. And, it kind of showed the way I played on the basketball court. But when I retired in 2015, all of that stuff kind of reoccurred and I had to face it. And I went through like a 3-year depression where, you know, I was always this kid upbeat, laughing, joking all the time, but I didn't want to bring my bad energy around anybody. So I was home, drinking and smoking every single day. And before I knew it, it was 3 years had passed me by. Nobody knew where I was. I didn't want to reach out to anybody. And, luckily, somebody reached out to me and told me that the NBA was having a transitioning program. And, that was kind of the, thing that I was like a transitioning program. And then they told me they was paying like 40,000, for your housing. I said, well, sign me up for that. And that what kind of got me, on that. And then I ran into a guy by the name of Vin Baker, who I played with in Boston, and asked him about his transition. And he was like, his transition was tough for him. But, one of the things he said that kind of, you know, shed a light on was that he was like, man, it was hard for me to transition, but he was like, one thing I had to understand that we're part of a 1%, probably less than that. And he was like, it's in here. And he was like, you just got to find something that, we have the same passion for basketball to be able to find that. And, I have a passion for helping people. So that's one of the things that I do now. All the experiences that I've had, all the, I would never say things that I failed at because I've learned from it and I'm able to be able to reach out and, help others. So a lot of things that I've experienced in my life, I get out and reach out to others, no matter what it was throughout my time, and have that open space for people to have a conversation, because a lot of times you never know. I just open up and be transparent about a lot of things I experienced, and you'll be amazed at how many people can't wait to be able to have that kind of conversation, because it's just not normal, especially for a male. Like you said before, expect us to figure it out, and even just being that, top athlete, we always think we, have that macho mentality where, we figure it out on our own. And, just going through that experience and, finding out that I needed the help. And I started going to counseling, and I tell people how great it was. Probably one of the best things ever happened to me. And, people look at going to counseling as, a sign of weakness, or, man, I'm not going to talk to anybody about my personal issues, but it actually saved my life. And I just
Oh,
talk about so much about it, where people, I get a lot of people going into counseling now just off of me talking about how much it helped me.
Jermaine, you know what? That's so powerful, and it shows your willingness to want to help. And I know that you've got the Beyond the Hardwood Foundation and Academy. But you've said some things that I want to circle back to. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard you say basketball and the basketball court was your safe place and your sanctuary to kind of escape from what real life was, right? And then I also heard you say that you was in a 3-year depression at the end of your career because your sanctuary was no longer there. Thank goodness that you had the conversation with Ben Baker, but what was it that clicked in your mind to be able to trust a counselor to share what you've observed, to share what you experienced, to be able to vocalize what you were holding in internally for a majority of your adult life now? What was it that clicked that says, hey, I need to be able to talk about this because I'm using alcohol and I'm using smoking and other probably chemical substances to numb yourself to get away from that pain. But what was it that was like, okay, I need to be able to talk about this, and I'm not weak for talking about it. I'm not being a punk for talking about it. Let's dive deeper into that because I think you're onto something powerful there.
Well, one of the things I find myself not being as good a friend as I normally was. I found out I wasn't being the best father as I, wanted to be. I found out I wasn't being the best husband as I wanted to be, because I was married at the time. It was a lot that, that was going through my mind that, I felt like I wasn't being the best I could possibly be at. And I'm real big. And if I'm investing my time in anything or anyone, I want to be the best at that. So that within itself just made me really want to go in and dig in to be a better me. And and it's weird because when I first went to counseling, and I went because of depression. That's why I went to counseling. And the first thing that the counselor kept asking me was that, um, kept asking me about my childhood. And I couldn't understand. And it was like 3 meetings went by, and I'm like, man, you know what, man, I'm not gonna get anything out of this counseling session. Like, why does she keep asking me about my childhood? Luckily, I'm the person, if I start something, I'm gonna finish because it really dug deep into who I am and why I was acting out in certain ways, and like so much that I experienced throughout my childhood that it really helped me identify who I was and why I was reacting certain ways when it came up to certain things. And counseling helped me that much where, I feel like once you identify who you are, it's easier to fix yourself. and you know, and I just really just let basketball identify who I was. So when it was over with, then it was, you know, pretty much me just trying to figure out who I really was, and going to
Wow.
counseling really helped me identify that.
Jumaine, that's some powerful nuggets here. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Jumaine Jones here with us today, former NBA player. You're watching the Coach Scott Field Show, and we're talking about mental health and men's mental health. And let's talk about that a little further, because I think we're on to something wonderful, and I'm glad you've opened this up and using this platform to do so. About 73% of our viewers are males. Talk to the males out there, and I know that probably about 45%, because a lot of our viewers are also basketball fans. So talk to the African American and the African American male and tell them how important it was for you to seek out and go to counseling to help you get through depression and to help you get through mental illness challenges, because we all face or struggle with something. And there's nothing wrong to seek help for what you're needing, instead of depending on chemical abuse or substance abuse to mask the pain that you were feeling inside from your childhood.
Yeah, it's very very important, and you know, I really take it amongst myself to be able to get out in communities and also hold a bunch of uh, you know, functions, and I hold a lot of weekly talking where it's only males, because I think one of the key things is that if we're open as men and transparent with each other, and I'm always big in iron sharpens iron, and if we can just get in and have these conversations amongst each other, I just feel like, you know, I think we can be better, you know, community leaders, you know, leading our households. It's just so much that, you know, is on our shoulders as men, that we have to have a clear mind. And if we're going to be able to do that, you know, our communities won't be the same if we're not doing the things that we need to do, and be transparent and open, you know, with each other. Because I think, for one, we have to be able to come together as men to be able to have these conversations and not be embarrassed by it. You know, it was a long time that I was in a space where I wasn't so open about you know, my experiences, because, you know, I didn't want to be looked at in a certain way. You know, it took a while for me to get to that space, but, you know, once I got to that space where I was comfortable to be able to have the conversation, the first I threw a mental health in sports and entertainment gala um, in 3 years ago, and I actually got on stage. Lamar Odom came, Steve Francis came, a lot of guys came that, you know, once they heard me speak, they started opening up themselves about their mental health experiences that they've had. So, you know, just me speaking out, doing that, and once I got off stage, to be able to see the reaction that I was getting, you know, from guys that I played against and playing with, you know, they were in tears and like, man, I can't believe you really got up there and talked about all those things. And those guys actually came to me afterwards and was like, man, Jumaine, like, man, I'm experiencing all of that stuff right now. Like, man, I'm just happy that you, like, man, I just want to hug you. And to be able to just have that open space where, you know, men can be men, and every time anytime I get up and talk about things, I get emotional, and, you know, and I let people understand that it's okay.
That's
You know,
right.
it's okay to cry. You know, the stigma that they put on, like, you got to be tough, man. It's tough not being in a space where you can be able to, you know, provide for your family and be the person you're supposed to be in the household. You know, that's what's hard. You know, you just got to be vulnerable and know that, you know, it's an issue, and be open enough to be able to go get the help that you possibly need. And I just think it starts with us having conversations with each other.
You know what? That Jermaine, God bless you, because that is real talk right there from your heart and from your core. And I feel that energy coming from you. I've had guests on this show, other former NBA players who have shared some of their stories, because everybody has a perception of what they see when the popcorn's popping and the lights are on and the tennis shoes are squeaking. but we're all real men. We're all human going through this human experience. And Scotty Williams, who wrote a book, who spent time with the Bulls and won a championship, I got his book over my shoulder. Kenny Anderson, who was a high draft pick, also was going through mental health issues, from a sexual abused situation. And I'm not going to speak for them, but have to go back and listen to those interviews. And for you to so openly and vulnerably, share your experience. Self advocacy is huge, but part of self advocacy is also self awareness. And for you to be in tune with your self awareness and find out what your triggers were, and to be able to emotionally open up and talk about those things is powerful. And I really appreciate you using this platform to also share your story, because, hey, we're all going through this human experience together, and why can't we lean on one another to share what's really going on within us? And it's okay to be emotional, and it's okay to have tears, and it's okay to say, you know what, this is something that I've had to endure, and I've held this in, because we think that people don't want to know that about us and our brand and what we're putting out there through social media. And I think social media has actually made that worse. What are your thoughts on that as well?
I have these conversations all the time, with social media. I even have, conversations with my peers, man. And even now, I'm like, how you think things would be back when we were in the NBA and all that kind of stuff with the social media the way it is now? It's tough, and that's why I like to, I call my organization Beyond the Hardwood, because I like to have conversations that's just bigger than the game of basketball.
Right.
And, a lot of things that you have to be aware of and in tune with to be that athlete. So, and, I talk with these kids all the time about the social media, and then the parents, it was like, well, this and this and that. But the thing with the parents is, like, we didn't have all that social media, so we don't understand. So I'm big on be able to have these conversations with the kids so that I can be able to learn from them to be able to teach them better.
Oh,
A lot of people are in a certain age, where, like, well, I don't understand this and I don't understand that. And I think the problem with that is, like, if we don't come down into their space and start listening instead of just talking down to them, we will never learn, the things that they're experiencing. Because you think about it, you know, the suicide rate for our youth is at the highest it's ever been, ever. And I think a lot of that has to do with a lot that's going on with social media, and, a lot of things that's surrounding them. So I just think it's about being, self-aware about the things that's going on, and just, you know, I'm a pillar of just trying to get out and do as much as I can, with our youth, and with our adults as well, because everybody's suffering in some kind of way, in some kind of capacity. And I just try to be the person that try to get people to feel safe just by me being vulnerable, having these kind of conversations, because that's when you can be able to get more out of the, whatever room you're in. People will be a lot more open with you about things they're experiencing, and you can ask them questions and you'll be surprised at the answers you get. And once you start asking these questions, man, it can be very, very helpful to the youth and what they're going through. And if we're not, as adults and older people coming in, and if we're not willing to go in and listen to the kids, man, things gonna get worse.
it's so true. Let's be honest, listening is a skill. And I like what you said about the social media, because there's so much attention on social media, because when you're seeing a community of youth, they're all on their phones, and if they don't get likes on their Instagram post, or if they don't get comments on a Facebook post, or if they're sharing something on TikTok, and they feel those pressures. And then you have kids that are putting things on social media, and then there's pressures like, oh, my boy is signed Division 1, and I need to sign somewhere. And then they don't truly be patient to understand their value, to wait on what would be a best fit for them because of those social media pressures. And so much of social media, Jumaine, I know you know this. There's a lot of superficial stuff on social media because people want to be perceived a certain way, but they don't talk about their failures or issues or concerns or what their deep emotions are, because they feel like, I can't put that out there on this platform. But I'm gonna tell you what, there is a true cry for help when you notice a behavioral chat pattern or behavior on social media. There's nothing wrong with reaching out to that person and checking on our brothers and checking on our sisters out in the community to see if they're all right. A lot of people post stuff, but they truly don't check in.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that, and I tell kids all the time, you could be whoever you want to be on social media, and you really can't pay too much attention to it. But we're in that day and time where kids are paying attention, and it's funny that you even spoke about checking in with people, because I always check in with a lot of former players and friends. I always check in with them, and one of the things I'm like, well, how are you doing? And they was like, I'm doing good. I was like, no, like how are you doing? And I'll say that like 3 or 4 times because um, I was at a function one time, and I was talking with this kid, man, and he was like, it was a day that he had planned to go home and commit suicide,
Oh,
and he said the only thing that stopped him was somebody came and asked him how was he doing.
wow.
And that was so
Wow.
powerful to me. And I was sitting there like, man, just the power of just someone asking you, how are you doing? And, even now when I go out and, talk with kids, like you never know what someone else is going through. So, just your smile and how you doing can make someone else's day.
Yeah.
And you never know, outside of this basketball court, or outside of this classroom, outside of whatever else, you never know. So it doesn't cost you anything to be nice to somebody and ask them how is their day going,
That
because
man.
you never know, you could be saving somebody's life. And that opened my eyes to that, just having a conversation with a kid that told me that that's what deterred him from committing suicide.
Wow, Jermaine, we've had great conversations on this show, but to hear the things that you're sharing, I mean, this is just 100 real talk right now. And I'm loving that about, what we're presenting. Uh, what what word of advice would you give parents out there? I mean, yes, we need to listen and we need to be in tune with our kids and know what they're doing and notice and recognize body language changes or behavioral changes, or them becoming more introvert or not eating as much. But to a parent, what message do you have for a parent? And then after that message, what message do you have for the youth out there going through mental health challenges?
Well, one of the things with the parents, you said a little bit of it. We just got to be attentive, and it's funny because I was one of those kids that I was playing 7th and 8th grade basketball, and my mom worked all the time, and nobody came to my 7th and 8th grade games, and that was. And the crazy thing is, I had I had 16 aunties and uncles,
Yeah,
and you know
yeah,
what I mean. And it was like kind of walking distance from where where the games were. So
right.
just for parents to be attentive and let kids, because I think one thing that parents don't understand, children like discipline.
Yeah, yeah,
Children love discipline, and a lot of people look at me like they do, and they do,
yep.
because anytime that I'm stern, and I'm, because I'm very stern, I wouldn't say that I'm that disciplined person because I got 3 daughters, and it's it's hard for me,
That's a girl dad.
to be it's hard for me to be that stern, with them. But just be attentive, pay attention to that pattern. Like, you know, I know when things are going on with my kid,
Yep,
and just being attentive with them, and just be able to have those, conversations, talk more, find the time. I know a lot of parents are out busy and they're trying to create, ways to be able to support their kids and, make a living, but you got to find that time where where you having these conversations, because a lot of times that's what they're missing
Yeah.
is the conversation.
Yeah.
Even if I'm at dinner, with my kids, I like, let's put the phones up, let's have conversation. I think that's one of the things that's really, really missing in a household, because when is the family time where you're sitting down having these conversations about what's going on with everybody that's at the table. And I think that that's one of the most important things. Let's put these phones down and have dinner and have conversations, and that should be a daily thing. And dinner is only what, 45 minutes to an hour. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You can't put your phone down for that long.
Right.
Let's put these phones down, and let's
Woo.
be attentive, and let's have these conversations on the daily and see what's going on. And I think, just having that on a daily, I think you'll be able to understand when something's missing,
I
and
love this.
you can kind of just figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so be physically present, be attentive and in tune with your child, but yet also having the communication and asking those uncomfortable questions to find out what's really going on. Because, like you said, if you ask the question, they're going to answer, right? And you can tell if they're not answering honestly. They may not be making eye contact or their shoulders are going to be slumped, but continue to ask that question because they don't want to hold that in. But I also liked what you talk about too, provide that discipline, those boundaries, and that structure, because kids will thrive under that just as athletes. Great players want to be coached. Well, kids
Absolutely.
also want to be parented. They may not like what you have to say, but
Right.
you being honest and real with those boundaries, I mean, that's you're protecting them. They may not understand it at a young age, but you're
Right.
protecting them. So, Jumaine, that's powerful stuff. How about for the kids out there? What message do
Well,
you have for the kids that are struggling with mental health issues other than don't be afraid to speak and don't be afraid to ask for help and don't be afraid to trust a counselor who is professionally trained to provide you insights into what you're dealing with? But go ahead.
Well, that's one of the things that I really like to go into the space with adverse childhood experiences, because there's a lot of kids out here experiencing a lot of things, and like I said earlier, me growing up was like, what goes on in the house stays in this house, and that was something that I had to grow inside of me for so long. So I kind of speak on being open and transparent and finding someone that you trust to be able to just have those kind of conversations, because it's never good to hold in what your feelings are or what you're going through. When you're experiencing anything like that, you got to have at least one or two people, an adult especially, that you can trust and have those conversations with. I just think with that, you know, trust of having that safe space, and I think that goes with adults and kids. If you can find that safe space with somebody you trust to be able to have conversations with, that what you're going through and what you don't like, what are your challenges, what are your challenges in life, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't ask. And I have a really good friend of mine by the name of Wesley, and that's one of the things he always asks me anytime we have a conversation. Every week he was like, well, what are your challenges this week? And I really had to sit and think about it, like what were my challenges this week? And I just think, like, as kids, being so young, I think it's more, being that you have so much availability to everything now with you could just Google everything, you got social media, you got so much. But I just think that sometimes you just got to deter from that and be able to communicate with an adult, with somebody that you trust, because if you really want to, you know, be in that life where you live in and being fulfilled with who you are and what you're trying to be, you have to be transparent about the things that you're experiencing, because if you don't, that can deter all the dreams that you may have. And to just to have that conversation,
Yeah.
with somebody that's more experienced in life than you are, that can kind of guide you, not tell you what to do, and try to get you in trouble for the things that you're telling. But that's why I think it's important just to be able to have the communication with someone that you trust. That's an adult,
Yep.
because there's not much that another kid can tell you when you're talking about life. just be open and transparent. That's
I
one
love
of the
it.
things that I
I
got, and
love
I'm
it.
still and it's funny because I'm still studying and trying to figure out ways that I can get to our youth to be able to get them to open up more, um, because they're talking all the time. They're
Yeah.
on the social media. They're doing everything when you're talking about communicating. So how can we transfer that over to talking with you know someone else other than a screen?
Oh, I love it. So true. You laugh because it's true. Ladies and gentlemen, again, you're watching the Coach Scott Field Show, and we got Jumaine Jones on here, former NBA player, the 27th draft pick of the Atlanta Hawks, and we're just having real talk and real conversations here this afternoon. But I like what you said, to the youth and to the parents, because I believe in my short time here on this earth that if kids can learn the difference between a friend and an acquaintance, that's a big first step. Learn who's just trying to take from you or use from you and riding your coattails, but know who those friends are that you can truly count on and trust. But then also, too, I think you have to be strong enough at some point to get rid of the toxicity, the negativity, the people who tell you you can't do something, and surround yourself with a support system that want to see you succeed and see you have success, and to see you prosper, and get away from the haters. And if you're able to do those two things that we just described, friends and an acquaintance, and rid yourself from toxicity and leeches who are just sucking the life out of you, those are powerful steps too. But I like what you said about communicating with an adult who you trust, and you can be open and be 100% honest with those individuals and allow them to mentor, guide, lead, and direct you.
Yeah, it's funny that you talk about that, man. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine that talked about asking what was his challenges, and he was like, "I don't know who my friends are,"
Ooh, yeah,
and it was so like it was so eye opening because I had never heard anybody say that,
yep. That's an
and
aha moment, right? It's an
yeah,
aha because it's like, wow, okay, so we just said something powerful. So now how can we be a problem solver and help them get rid of that? Because let's be honest, Jermaine, you went through this. You may have to rid yourself of certain family members or get a new environment so that way you can be successful. Because 30 minutes ago you said moving from Cocoa, Florida, moving to Georgia may have been something that saved your life, to rid yourself from that environment, because obviously there was manipulation and fear and controlling you to say you can't talk about what happens in this house.
right, yeah. It was it's a tough conversation to have, but and I tell kids all of this all the time, like you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable,
Ooh,
because if you want to be able to get into that space and get to the levels that you want to get to in life and want to be happy, you're gonna have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because it's gonna be those uncomfortable conversations that you might not want to have. But if you're trying to get to that space, and I tell people all the time, going through the path that I went through, and I failed at this, but you know, I learned from a lot of things that I've experienced. So it's easier for me to, talk with the youth now, and the people like, people tell me all the time, like, well, who are you to talk about relationships? You've had bad relationships. Well, who are you to talk about this? You failed at that. And I was like, well, those are the people that I really want to have conversations with. The
that's right.
people that experience these things and they failed at it, because they're the people that can tell you how not to do
Yeah,
it.
that's so true. But that's just a mindset and a flip in thought process to help you. Because who better to learn from than people who have made mistakes? We always say, you've never failed, you've learned something. And you haven't lost, you've learned, and you've empowered yourself with skills, as long as you can step back and learn from that loss or learn from what society calls a failure, because you can always fail forward, right? And those
Yeah.
people who can take those losses and take those failures and learn from them and not repeat the same mistakes,
Mhm.
those people are going to be the people who are going to climb. as long as, again, they don't repeat the same mistakes and same patterns. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I like to tell kids, even on my path of making the NBA, everybody couldn't come with me. Everybody's not going to be on the same level. Everybody's not going to have the same focus as you. Even my friends, I tell them now, like the friends that I have, they played high school basketball with me. Some played in college, but we still motivate each other, even though we're in different fields. We always motivated each other. We always had dreams to be something. It didn't even have to be basketball, but they motivate me in the field that they chose. Like, man, like you're doing very, very well in this industry, and you're doing this, and that motivates me. Even though I may have played in the NBA, but I'm still being motivated by them. And
Oh,
that's who you
wow.
really want to surround yourself with, because I tell kids all the time, it's very, very important who you surround yourself with.
Ooh.
On my path to be able to, get to the NBA, I had to be tunnel vision. And anybody that didn't think I can make it, or had anything negative to say about me, couldn't be around me, because I'm big, and even in a bigger space now, being that, I'm older and I've grown and I've learned more about who I am. I'm very, very tough about who I allow in my space. Even if like, I like to have meetings in person, because I want to feel your energy. If you have any kind of negative energy around me, I don't even want to work with you. I don't care what the price is on it, if the energy is not right. And I'm really big on having that positive energy around me. I'm big on, you know, I've gotten into meditations. I've got into, I've always prayed in the morning. I pray at night. I just started meditations 2 weeks ago. 2 months ago, I went on a spiritual retreat in Hawaii. It was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had to cleanse. And somebody told me, like, before I went on this, like, man, Jumaine, you got to pour, a lot out. You got to empty the cup before you can fill it back up. And
Ooh.
that's what that retreat did for me, to be able to get all the stuff. And once I came back from that retreat, it was more on like, man, I love this feeling. Like, there's nothing negative that can come into my life that can disrupt anything after me coming from this retreat. And I've been living every day trying to be better and surrounding myself around positivity, and just trying to create that safe space for anyone that needs it. And, that's why, I named my organization Beyond the Hardwood. I just, started this journal, and I'm real big on putting things down. Other simple fact, also things that I've experienced as well. When I was at University of Georgia, and I was trying to make a decision to leave school, I had no intentions on leaving school at all. But the coach that was there at the time told me if I left school, I'd be pumping gas in 10 years. And I was always that kid that liked to turn anything negative into a positive. So just him telling me that, like, for me, I made the decision to leave school because I wanted to prove him wrong. And soon as I left outside of that door, I called the agents and told them to set my workouts up. And every night before I went to bed, I wrote down on a piece of paper, pumping gas in 10 years, and I would tape it on the wall. So when I woke up in the morning, I would see it, and that was my motivation. So that's what motivated me to, come out with a journal, because I just feel that so much that's going on, it's only real when you put it down on a piece of paper.
Oh, and it's so true. And you made a conscientious choice at that time. When you hear words like that, you can either, one, like you did, allow that to motivate you and put gas on the fire for you, which was wonderful, or you can let it define you and you believe that nonsense, and you would have only been pumping gas had you believed what he said. So I like
Absolutely.
how you flipped it to allow it to fuel your fire, because I think that's a conscientious choice. And I think if kids could learn that strategy to say, okay, I've heard what you say. Of course, now they say vibe. Oh, I get the vibe, or we're vibing. You know what? Use that vibe to say, you know what? I don't agree with you, and I'm going to prove you wrong. That's a success strategy right there. And I
Absolutely.
applaud you for being able to use that to say, you know what? I will prove you wrong. And that's wonderful. Uh, so many gold nuggets. Jumaine, that you are sharing with the viewers today. And we've got to share this content because we've only got like 8 minutes left, and you're saying so many wonderful things. Where can people contact you to hear your speaking engagements or to hear your workshops or to be involved and learn from your positive aura that you share with others? Because like you said, steel sharpens steel. But how can people find you and get in contact with you with Beyond the Hardwood?
Well, I have my website, beyondthehardwood.org. That's my nonprofit. And then I have Beyond the Hardwood Academy. Um, .net, which is on a website as well. You can follow me at I am Jumaine Jones 33 on Instagram. I'm constantly posting a lot of things that I'm doing. Actually got a whole lot of stuff lined up that I'm preparing, man, and things are gonna get really, really busy for me soon. So I love it, man. People ask me all the time, like, Jermaine, you've been on the road for like a month and a half, and I was like, people don't understand like the work ethic I had to have to be able to be a part of a 1%. It's been less than 5,000 NBA players in the history of the game, and they didn't make it there by mistake. It was because they had the work ethic, and the things that I'm creating now, I'm so passionate about it. I don't feel like it's work, but you know, that's the same kind of effort that I put in it, that I put into basketball. And when Vin Baker told me, I had to find something that I had the same passion for as basketball, I found it. And, I just been really, really enjoying it. I've been able to create my own schedules. And I tell people all the time, people like, you don't want to coach, you don't want to do this. And I was like, man, I really enjoy what I'm doing because people don't understand. I've been told what to do my whole life. You know what I mean? What time to be at practice, when I should be here, what time the flight leaves. And I just wanted to create a space for myself where, I feel like, I told one of my good friends who's a coach, I said, man, I always sat back and I was like, man, I want to be able to, I want to be something like a coach without coaching that touches many lives as a coach. And, I have so much respect for coaches, man, because they touch so many lives throughout their lives. It's crazy, and what keeps coaches going is to be able to have those kids come back and tell them how much the things that they meant or they probably used to get mad about, to be able to get, that, man, coach, man, I'm glad that you did this and I'm glad you did that. I understand now, and that's what really keeps you fueled to be able to keep coaching. And I want to be fueled to continue to do that, but I don't want to coach.
Yeah, but you're basically being a life coach for individuals, and you're impacting so many lives just by sharing your story. I believe one man's candle does not go out by igniting another candle, and you are lighting candles and illuminating people with your positivity and with your message, even right here today on the Coach Scott Field Show. So even though you didn't want to be a coach on the hardwood, you're being a coach in life beyond the hardwood, just like your organization. And Jumaine Jones, um, I'm on that train with you. And I'm not being superficial when I say this. If there's anything that I can ever do to help you with workshops or speaking or any of your presentations that you're sharing with individuals, whether they're NBA players, because you and I have been at that level, whether it's in a community that's underserved, please reach out to me, your white, bald headed brethren, and I'm going to be there with you because I'm on that journey with you. And that's why I even created this show, to try to empower people with the tools that they need to be successful, no matter what walk of life or what industry they choose. And for you to share your stories with our viewers today, Jumaine, has been so powerful. And we've got 4 minutes left. So we've talked about Beyond the Hardwood, how they can get in contact with you. You use your social media platforms to share positive vibes with the world. What other message do you have here in the last 2 minutes or 3 minutes that you want to share? Because this content needs to be shared, and you can use this show on your website if you would like, because I'm going to share this content with everybody because so many powerful things have been said. But in the last 2 minutes, what other words of advice would you give the viewers and listeners of the Coach Scott Field Show today?
Well, I'm gonna reach out to the youth on this because I really like trying to empower our youth because so much just going on with them and so much there in front of them. With the pandemic, even us, as adults, we, still trying to find our way to be able to, parent. Coaches trying to figure out how to coach because everything is just so different now. But to most of the athletes that's out there, I tell people all the time, you know, I do camps all the time, and people, I ask how many people want to be in the NBA, and it's crazy. Every time it's like 90%, 95%. And what I really like to, let the youth know is that, if you dedicate yourself to the game of basketball, football, whatever field or whatever sport that it is, you know, there's never been it's never been a punishment for hard work. If you dedicate yourself to any kind of sport, and you're showing up on time and you're doing all the work, there's gonna be there's gonna be a it's gonna be a reward. It's gonna be a reward for that, and it might not be in the NBA, might not be in the NFL. And I tell kids this all the time: all Fortune 500 companies love athletes. If they had to choose somebody that, between the average person that didn't any play any sports and that kid that played sports, 10 times out of 10 that CEO want to pick that athlete. So there's so many other opportunities around the game. I think, I tell these kids all the time, instead of trying to be a part of that 1%, if you love the game that much, look up all the things that's around it. You know what I mean? Like even guys at the NBA level, I look at guys pulling cords and stuff from the, sockets and all that. They making $200,000. You know what I mean? Mascots making six figures. Referees making, millions of dollars. You know what I mean? There's just so much other things around the game. Whatever sport it is, if you could just look into those things because you have Google and you are using them, you have social media, look into a lot of things that's around it, not trying to deter you from your dreams for making the NBA or making the NFL, but, just try to prepare yourself for that plan B, C, D, and E. So, you could be prepared because it's a lot of times and a lot of people that I know, only had that plan A and then they end up falling into that depression that we've been talking about so much during this show. So to be able to prevent from that from happening, let's plan. I was told a long time ago, if you got $1 million with no plan, you really don't have $1 million. So let's get life and let's make a plan.
I love it. Hey, and like you said, only 1% make that elite level, right? So 99% of you can do something else: broadcast, statistician, mascot, community relations. There's other ways to be involved with it, that you can still make a great livelihood in living for yourself to provide for yourself and others. And my man, not only were you on the 1%, you are also a 1% Hall of Fame heart. And I've got nothing but love for you, my spiritual brother. God bless you as you continue to impact lives. And I'm going to be in touch with you, as I hope you're in touch with me, because anything that I can do to help and support you and what you're doing with your message, brother, I am on board. Make sure you contact me.
All right. Thank you, Coach. I appreciate it, man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, Jumaine Jones here on the Coach Scott Field Show. Take this content and share it with your friends. Share it with people that you care about. Hear the words of his message to inspire and to empower you and to help you on your path on this journey we call life. Because my man, Jumaine, you're knocking it out of the park, man. Slam dunk 360, baby. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
God bless.